Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Crescent City Cup live coverage. This is Morris Greenberg reporting live from Durham, North Carolina with Rafi Stern. Rafi, you're in Portland, right?
I am in Portland.
We have an exciting matchup right now. As you see on the screen, Jackson SMYLIE versus Adam GINZBERG. Jackson is 13-1, which means he's 3 games up on the field right now with 6 games left in the tournament. Definitely a nice advantage, although that is not Gibsonized by any means. 6 games is a lot of time to catch up to him if you're someone like Adam in the slew of 10-4s, or fall back in the worst case scenario for Jackson. So we're off to the races. So we've done these blank guessing quizzes. So just guess which 2 blanks or which 2 letters will be designated as the blanks throughout this game. You can submit that up until the first blank is drawn. So right now Jackson is very constant heavy. Rafi, what would you do here?
I would probably play QI. It seems like a pretty standard play right now. There aren't very many good X options, and the Q is a very weak tile. So playing QI, hoping to draw a couple vowels, seems like the best option for right now.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that people sometimes forget about starting off with things like QI is it often is conducive to a clunky beginning of the game. When you start off short with letters that aren't conducive to making a lot of 2s like the Q, you're limiting your opponent's options of what they can do scoring-wise if they don't have a bingo. And as you'll see here, Adam will probably have to do another lowish point play. He's not going to score more than 25 points in most scenarios here. So things like QI slow down the game, and that's exactly what Jackson wants when he has a lot of high point tiles.
And Adam quickly exchanges.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. I guess that seems pretty reasonable, although it's always weird to me when you exchange and keep the V.
Yeah, although LIVE does have pretty good synergy, so I don't hate it. I think it might be correct.
Yeah, I don't hate it either.
Ooh,
well,
and depending on
some wild guesses for the blanks. People are really wanting to go for the double bonus. As a reminder, how we're scoring it is, for every blank you guess correctly, you get that many Scrabble points. So an E would only be worth 1 point, a Z would be worth 10 points. But if you guess both the same letter, and that letter was designated twice, you get double the points. So someone just guessed Q and Q, someone gets Z and Z. So if one of them is right, they will get 40 points in our game. And keep in mind, the prize, which we have not run by Will Anderson, is for Will Anderson to be... I guess you get to choose which division Will Anderson plays at the next New Orleans tournament. We don't even know if he'll show up, but you get to choose which division he will play.
It looks like for a minute, Jackson had set up GHI as a possibility, knowing that if he draws into the perfect draw, he can get Quixotry off the Q. Not necessarily the best thing to fish for Quixotry, but it's an interesting thing to look at. And now he has Oxy set up.
Yeah, it's always fun to go through those sorts of scenarios. In this case, it probably doesn't make sense, especially because you wouldn't hit a double or triple word score with that Quixotry if you do even get it, and it's low probability. So Jackson correctly decides to not go with that cute idea and instead go for a higher point play of Oxy. And as you're seeing, like we just said earlier, there isn't a lot of easy hooking options. You need specific letters right now. You need an L at the end of OI or a K. You could use a K or a P or an M at the beginning. You need an I directly after the Q. So now bingos aren't going to be very easy on this board, and Jackson's mostly now gotten rid of the major clunk from his rack, which is exactly what he needed.
And Adam has not a lot of great options here. He might be able to parallel next to the QI because OI takes the L for oil. If he plays Vile, could be a decent play.
Yeah, do you prefer Vial or Veil there?
I think I would prefer Vile because it's a little bit easier to bingo off of, but Veil requires the S and Vile opens the lane a little bit better, I believe.
Yeah, it's a good question because Vial allows for a lot more easy bingos, but Adam does have the case S for Veil and oils. So he might opt for that. And it looks like he's doing nil even. He likes the VENS, and I guess probably the E adds a lot of value to that rack where you have if you're a bit constant heavy, the E is a really good tile with that. So that's probably what he's thinking, but also now the S is a really valuable tile.
Ooh, and he draws into a bingo. He has Elevons.
Yes, and with the soil hook he created, that could be an option. So we'll see if Jackson goes there now. One option that we didn't mention that the chat pointed out, which was very clever, was playing Viney there, setting up vinyl with an L after. But I think taking the points probably is a bit better, but it's a cool idea. Shout out to Jaquezino for suggesting that.
And Jackson has the A hook for nil, and likely will play something in that spot. But he could end up playing something parallel to oil and oxy as well. There might be some good options there.
Yeah, he could even do AAH, Axe, and AY, although that's really constant heavy, but that does score pretty decently. So, or AARGH actually is what he has set up on his rack, and that's probably, I'm guessing he's thinking about putting that in the spot parallel to Oxy rather than Anil. I think that will score a few more.
Yeah, that would score 27 points, which is pretty good. It does give back some potential big overlaps, but for the most part, it's a bit safer for overlaps as opposed to AAH. He's
Yeah,
also
would you play AARGH with the first A next to the Y or the first A next to the X?
What's the point difference there? Let's see.
I think it should be 2 points different, it looks like.
Yeah. I think I would play it. Ooh. I think I would play it with the Axe and AY double parallel instead of just AY. But I'd have to look at it for a while and consider what the comeback options would be because both give back decent parallels, and a lot of it depends on how much I think my opponent could score on the next turn.
Yeah, and I guess so. Since Jackson's considering Garth and Garda, he probably is more focused on the A front hook to nil. It could be that Jackson thinks Adam is setting up that spot specifically by playing nil, which is a reasonable assumption, I think. If Adam's playing 3 1-point tiles, it seems like most of the four-letter combinations Adam is keeping is probably going to be 4 1-pointers, maybe a 2-pointer in there, but it's actually fairly unlikely Adam was holding something like the V. And so if you're limiting Adam's range to mostly 1-pointers, you could think the A is even more likely than something like an I or an O that he's keeping just because he's setting up that hook. So Jackson is going with Garda here, probably partially because he thinks Adam is more likely to be holding an A in that sort of scenario.
And as a result, he manages to block Adam's bingo, which is a very good result.
Except what does Anil take as a back hook?
Oh, yeah, Anile. Sneaky, sneaky. So he blocks one spot, but opens up another one.
Yeah, so we will see if Adam sees that spot. It is a bit tricky to see at first. Also, one update. I was talking to Seth Lipkin last night, who we saw on the stream yesterday. He said, so he knew he missed retailer, he told me, but he was thinking he had arterial there, not retailer, and it didn't fit. So he thought he had another A on his rack. when he was looking at the spot and not an E. So that just kind of is an example to show you sometimes you know the word, you can normally see it, but for whatever reason, just in the moment, you might forget what letters you have or just something crazy and it might just not come together. But it looks like that isn't one of those cases. Adam indeed sees the spot for Elevons, remembers his letter of an Elevon, and gets it down. So good for him.
Nice play. And Adam takes the lead.
Yes. And the chat is suggesting Headmost now, which is a very nice find.
Jackson will surely find some bingo here. Probably Headmost.
Although the chat also suggests the double-double of Thanedom through the E in Elevons, which is also interesting.
The anagram of Methadone.
Yes. Also, we got a request from the chat to explain the scoring for and the prize for the blank quiz. You can still submit answers. We have not. Oh, I guess no. We now have a blank. Never mind. But the scoring is: you choose 2 tiles for blanks. If you guess either correctly, you get that tile's point value for your point total. So if you guessed an E and a blank was designated as an E, you get 1 point. If a blank was a Z and you guessed a Z, you get 10 points. If you guess both of the same letter and the blanks are both the same letter, you get double the points. So if it's ZZ, you get 40 points. So we'll see what Jackson designates the blanks here. I guess I could look back and see which blank guesses people have. So Headmost would be an E designation, and so it looks like Zev Kaufman guessed an E, for instance. Thanedom would be an N designation. I don't see any N's this round, so if it is an N, no points will be given for that one.
And Morris and I will take all the prizes.
Yes, we are taking all the prizes if you guys are wrong. Also, I forgot to mention yesterday, Josh Greenway said you should mention that you were the NASPA recipient of Best Commentator this past year with Will Anderson. So I will gladly say that I am the best Scrabble commentator on the planet right now, according to probably the 30 to 100 people that voted in that quiz. So thank you very much. I very much appreciate your support. It looks like Jackson is putting down Thanedom.
Beautiful play. Double-double times 4. That is a boatload of points.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot.
102 to be exact.
102. So how much was Headmost by comparison?
Headmost.
Because that is interesting. You're going to, on average, that's going to score a lot in that spot. Oh,
and Adam playing right back with Agonized. 3 bingos in a row for the both of them combined. Great game so far.
It is, and now this is getting back to this shooting match we've seen these past few games. It's within 10 to 20 points each turn. One person scores 30 to 40 points, the other does, back and forth, and we keep seeing one person have the lead every other turn. So we'll see if this continues, but Jackson's in a good spot to score this turn with blacks.
If he plays blacks, that would be interesting because there are some potential extensions, and the question as to if both players know the extensions will come into play, or if someone makes up an extension.
So can Adam get an... Oh, Warriors could come down too.
Oh,
Warriors.
wow. Wow.
So what are some of the extensions to black? Looks like the chat's getting
black.
some of them. Yep, the chat got that.
And there's one Y unseen.
So, God. Adam isn't going right away, though, so maybe he isn't seeing this yet. Because we saw Adam put down Agonize pretty quickly. I think he tends to, when he sees the bingo who doesn't waste time. So we'll see if he sees it. I mean,
216, 175.
it's not obvious right away unless you're looking for the O in Warriors. That's how I saw it. Like, oh, if there's only an O available. I wasn't looking through the O first.
But he has only had this rack for a minute or so. He hasn't had that much time to look around. He's probably tracking the bingos, probably adjusting to all the carnage that has happened the last several turns. And once he takes the time to actually look for a bingo and look through the O, I think he'll probably find it.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I feel like I tend to more often look at my rack and think what eights could be apparent with this, and then see if those letters are on the board first, and then afterwards I might look at the board. Oh, he missed it.
He didn't even look for a
missed
bingo,
Warriors.
apparently.
Yeah. So
I think if he had shuffled his tiles, then he would have seen it, but he just kept the tiles in order and whiffed on the bingo.
yeah, this is actually surprising. Adam isn't the type to miss bingos like that. He's like, from when I've seen him play, he's really good at that sort of stuff. He's picking it
But he
up.
hasn't. Oh, wow. Maybe he realized. Oh, and now he has the W position first on his rack, which could help him figure it out. Could make the word
just
pop
switch
out.
that A and I. Switch the A and I. Don't
I think he's
concentrate
going to
on
find
War
it.
We'll see. Adam is also based in the San Francisco area, so he should be well familiar with the Warriors.
Oh, and he puts it back down.
Yeah, as Scrabble Jerry says, last season Adam would have seen Warriors right away. This year, though, they're quite forgettable. Very true. So that could be a big swing of events.
The good news is that RS is still a great leave, and he could draw into another bingo right away if he's fortunate.
Yeah, well, look what that gives Jackson, though.
Oh, it would have blocked. It would have blocked his envision. Wow.
Yeah.
And
I
sometimes
actually did not remember Envision. Is Envision good? I thought it's just Envision.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that didn't quite look right.
And Adam is holding.
Yeah, that is indeed
Alec points out, Envision and Incision are the two words that Jackson's combining.
So now
Keep
is
in mind,
Jackson.
double challenge. The past few rounds have been single challenge. I forget what the point-based challenge is called, but basically one person's turn would necessarily be lost if a challenge occurs. So if you challenge incorrectly, you lose your turn. Just like in single, I think, if someone challenges and your word is phony, word comes off, you lose your turn.
So the question is now, is Adam on hold and the tiles that Jackson drew are courtesy draws, or is Adam just thinking about his next play? We don't really know. But he has his hand on his neck in a very pensive state. It looks like he's really considering challenging.
Adam could just be a pensive guy, though. We don't know.
Yeah, I think based on his body language that he's really considering challenging. He just took a glance off to the side of the room, potentially in the direction of a challenge computer, thinking, "Are you calling my name, challenge computer? Are we going to walk over there?"
Not only is Rafi Stern a Scrabble expert, Scrabble grandmaster, he is a body language grandmaster. So make sure if you are playing him, do not give any tell like looking at the challenge computer. These are the kinds of things that get him one step ahead.
That's what playing years and years of poker can do. Figure out some tells.
Yeah. Have you ever figured out if someone had a tell during a game or no? Of Scrabble?
Not super often. There's a few pretty specific tells where certain players will just kind of sit back with their arms crossed and stop shuffling their tiles when they have a bingo, but that's really the main one. In terms of more like subtle tells, I haven't really used them to my advantage in Scrabble, mainly because I'm so focused on just trying to find the best play and the actual gameplay itself. But every now and then in Scrabble, it does come into play for me.
Yeah. It's always, I feel like I always remember those edge cases where the really weird skill you have or the really nuanced thing you notice, those are the games I'll remember a lot more than just like finding the equity bingos or whatever. It's really fun when you notice, oh, my opponent did that weird thing. That might mean something.
One thing that also is tricky in Scrabble is that if you suspect that your opponent has a bingo based on their body language and there's more than one spot for them to play, intentionally sacrificing points to block could be a huge negative, because if you block the wrong spot, then you just wasted a lot of points hoping that you were blocking the right area. So it just the benefit to getting an accurate tell in Scrabble isn't as big as in other games potentially.
Agreed. And one thing to keep in mind here, we're still not sure if Adam has accepted the play or if Jackson's still on hold here. Adam is only down by 10 points here, and he could be thinking, I'm close to bingo tiles. I left this huge A out of the triple lane last turn. It looks like Adam's going to play, so he has accepted. He's playing refed, but Adam still has the lead here, and he's thinking probably, I'm keeping better tiles on average than Jackson, so if I'm not sure and vision is invalid, why risk a pretty good situation?
It's also possible he just wasn't on hold at all. But sometimes a player will be on hold and think about it for the entire length of time before they make a play. You don't have to release hold before you make a play.
Yes, it's true. And Adam had an unfortunate draw there, so Jackson's going to be in pretty good shape. Oh, actually, never mind. I did not realize that the score wasn't added in Vision to Jackson's score initially. So Jackson is up a lot more than I initially realized. So it's 290 to 236 right now. That was a huge swing of events then. Adam missing Warrior and playing Wira, Jackson playing the phony in Vision, and Adam accepting. And now Adam playing refed to open up a few more lanes, but he's not drawn into what he'd hoped for, and Jackson has drawn into all the stuff Adam wanted.
And Scrabble Kate has confirmed that there definitely was a hold for a while and doesn't think that there was a verbal release. So it's likely that Adam indeed was on hold all the way up until he played the word refed.
Yeah. So what do you do now if you're Jackson here? Like, you could do something like Joe, J-O-E, off the E and refed, keeping really good bingo tiles and giving yourself some options for the future.
Another option people are suggesting is playing Jared through the R and Wura, which does burn the blank, but scores 56 points, takes out the triple lane, and piles the lead on even more. It's probably pretty close between burning the blank and not, but if he does play Joe, blocking the lanes in the top part of the board, he leaves a very potent lead for bingoing next turn.
Yeah, that's fair. Dojo is also suggested by the chat, next to Agenized.
Dojo next to Agenized. Yeah, that would be a nice play as well. A lot of great options here. But what Adam is really hoping is that the R and Wura doesn't get blocked, because he's likely to play Bureau next turn to get rid of both of his U's. So he's really hoping that spot stays open.
Yeah, that's definitely his best play. Although, like, Bo next to Agonized wouldn't be the end of the world either. It does keep a U, but USC isn't the worst.
Yeah. And it would open up a T-hook.
Yeah. And an S-hook. So Jackson has a lot to consider this turn. One option someone else threw out was out-joked as another phony. I actually am not seeing where that would play, though. That would require a blank K or U. I don't see either of those available on the board, so maybe that was just a fun phony suggestion in general. Dojo Mate also as a phony, but Adam has the case S.
And Jackson has been using a lot of time on this turn. He's down to 10.5 minutes, and only half the tiles have been played so far. So Jackson could potentially run into time trouble if the game gets close. Which seems a bit surprising because Adam took such a long time on refed. You would think that Adam would be, but maybe Jackson took a long time on a few other plays.
The Garda turn he took a while on specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though Adam is down right now and Jackson will likely block one of the two areas where there are bingo lanes, this is actually a pretty decent board for Adam for creating more spots. If he makes a play next to Agenize, that will immediately open up a lot of bingo lanes because literally no one has touched those 4 left-hand most lanes right now. So this is actually a fairly okay situation for Adam in situations where he's down by 50-some points, because there are some opportunities for him to score and create more scoring spots.
The only thing he doesn't have going for him is that Jackson has the final blank. So Adam might think that he has a chance to draw that blank, but little does he know, it's already out of the bag.
Yeah, so it looks like Jackson is more and more pairing his J with his blank, so maybe Jared will come down here.
Has anyone suggested blank I in the chat?
Oh, you're saying on Agenize? I didn't see anything in the chat, at least. But yeah, if you guys see any 5-letter words ending in JI that Jackson can play, that's probably also a decent idea.
Oh, emoji was mentioned. What I was saying was if anyone thought the blank would be an I and would get points for that.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Alec, for being a great tracker in this. We have not been as diligent as Alec in tracking blank guesses. So one person guessed the I, apparently.
Do we know who guessed it?
Wow.
Ooh. Very interesting. I am very confused by that play, and that is actually amazing for Adam. It gives him Bureau for even more points.
Yeah, what a play.
Wow, that
just when I think I know Scrabble, things like that happen. Wow, what a play by Jackson.
I'm confused by that play. Doesn't seem like it doesn't score hardly any points.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess Jackson's logic was he wanted to block that area and he didn't want to burn his blank. So that was the play he decided on. I think there's merit there to holding the J, though, in those scenarios. Maybe he wanted to use his J, not his blank, and block that area.
Maybe he thought he was setting up his J, but forgot that he was also playing it, because it does set up an amazing J spot if he had 2 Js on his rack. What are you talking about? At any rate,
if he played Iota, I guess that would have been... Or no, did he have the I last turn? I forget.
He did not have the I.
Okay. So the chat is telling what we're seeing of arrow sets could play for Adam if Jackson doesn't block. Unfortunately, Jackson is much more likely to play at that bingo spot in the top column of the board, or top row of the board, than probably any other bingo spot. Also, the Moobot did just post the straw poll for NWL Round 16 matchup pairings. That is the time where you guys get to vote of who we get to see play next round. Maybe Jackson again. He's in the lead by 3 games and is looking like in good shape where he could win another one. Although he is going super conservative here again. He's not allowing any bingos, which means he will not hit the triple word score. That's sacrificing probably around 20 points to the best bingo options there.
I didn't see any bingos that hit the triple with that.
Oh, were there no bingos that hit the triple? I guess I just kind of assumed. Were.
Yeah. Over edit, erotized, loitered. Don't think anything hit.
Yeah.
Loitered.
Yeah, I guess not. Wow, that's interesting. I just sort of assumed that there was one and didn't really look. But
ooh, and Jackson's drawn into Trip Men.
Yeah, Scrabble Kate said that was the highest scoring bingo available. So sometimes even the most promising high probability racks yield low point bingos. And so now what does Adam do here? He is down by 85. He needs to start planning this very strategically. Both blanks are out. He needs to strike as soon as possible, but also not burn through too many tiles in doing so.
Yeah, the board is not great for bingoing right now, and he, at this point, definitely needs to bingo. So the question of how he can score points and make new lanes is pretty tricky. There aren't a lot of great options here.
Yeah. I guess... Well, he does have the A for the ABO hook off Bureau. So that is the one bingo lane available right now, it looks like. Otherwise, he'll probably need to create something. I guess, are there any immediate words that he's close to ending in A if he just fishes off 1 or 2 tiles? It's tough with 2 S's.
Yeah. People in the chat are suggesting Dolerites and Sate. He might need, at this point, to simply just try to score points and open up on a future turn.
Yeah, I think some others were suggesting Stoa instead to keep the E instead of the O.
Yeah, Stoa looks a bit better. The pool right now is 7 vowels and 16 consonants, so keeping an extra vowel here is pretty important.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
And that's something that could end up helping Adam later. If Jackson ends up getting mired in consonants, he might be able to squeak out a win that way. Another option would be Stoweye to the I and agonized. It opens immediate lanes, but they're also very easy to block later, so might not be...
Which would give Jackson Orpiment.
That is true. That would be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate if Adam goes that route.
So what will he do?
Yeah, sometimes you just run into those games where you have a few decent options. You choose one that's basically as reasonable as another, but just in that situation, your opponent's holding the perfect letters to bite in that choice. So Adam has Tau set up on his rack. I'm wondering where he's thinking of playing that. I think one thing he probably wants to do long term, if he wants to have good bingo options, is play off the ED and Agonize, just because that does fork the board. For those not familiar, forking the board just means in one play creating lanes in 2 completely separate areas that make it hard to block both. Like you're creating a fork in the road.
Another thing to consider is that The MI near the bottom right of the board could be a potential lane for a 9-letter word if he absolutely needs it. He might
That's true.
he might need to consider looking for plays through there later in the game or keeping that open as an option.
Yeah. Another option. Well, actually, yeah, Jackson can block the C. So I was going to say DOT, DOAT seems fairly hard to block right there because it would likely just create another lane. But I think Jackson just make a small play underneath that would struck that lane Adam would create.
There is one remaining Y, so I blocks could come into play later if he decides to keep his E. But once he plays his E, if he plays his E, the chance of drawing it is very low. So looking for extensions for blacks could come into play later.
Indeed. And he has Stoa set up on his rack right now. So we're not sure if that's Dolerites and Stoa or Stoi, which would give Jackson Orpiment.
I imagine he's looking to play the Dolerites version. I think that scores a lot more points and keeps him within pace so that he can open the board later and hope to come back. I think Stoi, while it opens immediately, is just too easy to block and completely shut down that part of the board. He needs to open that board in a little bit more of a controlled way.
Exactly, yeah. That's a really good point Rafi makes. When you're down by this much, you need to be very calculated in how you want to open the board. Because you're hoping for the best case scenarios where you make it hard for your opponent to block and your opponent has to make some sort of choice and they make the wrong choice. When it's easy for your opponent to block everything, you're not giving your opponent a choice they have to make. So Rafi's definitely giving us a good reason why Stoi might look nice in a vacuum, but in most tourney situations, you don't want to play against a solid player like Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson will just completely... I mean, even if he didn't have Orpiment, he just completely shut that part of the board down in one turn. And that would essentially be game over. Right now, there are three completely unused columns, but all three of them would be gone if you played Stoi.
Yeah. So he has Tau, and he also set up Oat before. Maybe he was considering DOT, D-O-A-T. One person pointed out if Jackson blocks DOT by making an Ita hook, right? DOT creates Ta, which gives the hooks Ita and Utah. If Jackson plays the E there, Adam would immediately have Sita after. But I think actually Jackson would probably block in a different way. He could play underneath that instead. He could play off the E and Agonized and the A and Garda to make a decent high-scoring play. Oh, so yeah, Adam's going to try to fork the board that way, which probably makes the most sense if he feels like he needs to open this turn. It's going to be harder to block the lanes that Adam's creating all simultaneously. And Adam's also holding two S's, so the S lane is going to be even harder to block well than the A lane off of 8. So I think that makes a lot of sense, Adam's course of action there.
And he draws a couple vowels, so whatever Jackson does, he's going to be drawing from a pool of even more consonants than before. So if Jackson makes a play leaving no vowels, he could end up being in a really tough spot.
Yeah, so Jackson has Prim set up on his rack. I'm wondering where he's thinking of putting that. Is he just going to do PO and Prim? That doesn't seem very good.
I think he's thinking of playing Premi to the I and Agonized.
That would make a lot more sense. And if he does that, that definitely partially blocks one of the lanes Adam's created, but also creates another whole lane. So this is why Stoi was definitely not the play, and Adam correctly chose something else. And Jackson plays preemie for a lot of points. He will have over an 100-point lead, I think, after that.
Indeed.
And so Adam needs to think for a bit about how he wants to proceed with this turn. It's still going to be hard for Jackson to block everything. So Adam probably wants to score this turn to narrow the lead. And then hope he hits the letters he needs for a bingo next turn.
When he drew that final U out of the bag for his last tile, I was hoping it would be the Y, so he could play I blacks and have a shot back in the game. But the U was one of the worst tiles he could have drawn here, unfortunately.
Yeah, it really is a shame.
One thing that's tough about a rack like this is that while you need to bingo, your tiles score so few that it's hard to score points while waiting for that bingo to materialize.
Yeah, that definitely is true. I wonder if he might try to pluralize Envision this turn. If he plays OWSE and then Visions.
And then if Jackson challenged it off, that would be pretty rough.
That would be. Yes, the chat is suggesting Sate, possibly. I feel like Adam's going to try to get rid of that U this turn.
Yeah.
But he does need to score first. He's down by over a bingo, so he needs to score, get a bingo, and then hope to score a bit more.
Sate looks like a pretty high-scoring play. And while it does leave the U is a little bit better than average now because the pool is very consonant-heavy, but still not the most desirable tile to have. But sometimes you have to forego leave to get points, especially when you're down 110.
Agreed. So let's actually think about what kinds of blocking plays Jackson might try to do next turn. Would you try to maybe play Ortho through the R in Preemie?
Yeah, that's one possibility. Heron is another one. Or just OOH atop. While it does leave lanes for nines, nines are harder to see and not as common as you might think. So I could imagine OO coming down as an option.
Yeah, the chat points out Jackson could even just score next turn with dropping the H in between guard and agenized.
Oh, he does play it. And now Jackson is smiling.
This is actually I like this move a lot by Adam because it forces Jackson to think. If Jackson, oh, okay, well, Adam drew his tiles pretty quickly, so I think Jackson didn't hold. He realized the one way to lose is if Envision is valid, he challenges, and Adam gets to take another turn. But
and it didn't score many points either.
Yeah, and he draws the Y now after playing that E. That sucks. So Jackson with the scoring route now, which is going to work out fine for him. Adam is slowed down now by 2 U's and a Y. So it looks like Jackson's in pretty good shape to be 14-1.
Great tournament for Jackson, and it'll be hard for anyone to catch him at 4. So whoever plays him in the next round will be potentially the only thing stopping him from taking the tournament going into the final day. He's up 4 games with 4 games to go and a lot of spread. He essentially will have it clinched.
Yeah, although I will say, the one year I won this tournament, Jesse Day was up 14-2. I was a mere 12-4 and was able to rally back and win it on the last day. So if there's someone who wins 12-4, if Jackson loses the next round, there is precedent for not finishing it out.
And at the California Open this past year, Carl Johnson was 4 games behind with 4 games to go against Mike France and managed to win all 4. And Mike lost all 4, and Carl won the tournament. So
That is phenomenal. Wow.
does happen sometimes.
So Jackson has font set up on his rack. Trying to see where he's going to put that.
Yeah, I'm
Doesn't
not.
look like an obvious spot.
Jackson down to 3 minutes left, but with an 100-point lead, he doesn't really have to worry about time pressure. Probably
That's very true.
Probably going through to make sure that there aren't any bingos through the R that he needs to block. Just doing his due diligence, make sure.
Yeah, I think he would still win, as the chat's asking, even if he doesn't block a bingo here. But it's still probably better to just try to block bingos if you can. Oh, wow. So he is not going for bingo blocks. These plaguers, as the chat points out, would be an option here.
Ooh, I think now he's considering just playing the W, at least to look to see if he can hit a bingo with a 1-tile draw, which, while he could draw one, Adam will almost certainly track and make sure to block. But even the threat of it could be a bit demoralizing when you're behind by 100 and he could make a mistake and not block. But
very true. So it looks like Jackson is going to go with few.
Emptying the bag.
Yes, well, he was guaranteed to empty the bag there. There was only 1 tile, so unless he passed, he was going to empty the bag.
And
so Adam is now just going to try to figure out this endgame within the 2 minutes he has left. A bit under now.
he might end up playing soup and dolerites.
That looks decent. That does give Gag and Pig. Is there a second out spot for the... Oh, yeah. Go and Gag off of the O and tag. Or tau.
Yeah.
So that would be a nice out sequence.
I'm still very curious about...
Sage might be another option off dolerites if the P is better somewhere else, maybe.
Yeah, both plays seem pretty similar here.
I guess, does Jackson actually have an outplay next turn? I didn't even think about that.
No, he doesn't have anything through the R or the P.
I always want cornlet to be a word.
Cornlet would probably be pretty tasty.
Yeah. Well, cornlet's good, right? With an M?
Yeah.
So Adam plays Pug, leaving Sage, or something else probably that I'm missing right now, but Sage is probably the high-scoring option with those extra letters.
Yeah, and he can play Gauges or Sage making Pugs.
Oh, that is beautiful, Jackson. Wow.
Good find. Sticking that N between Garda and the T.
That's
Nice
at least
play.
go pick status, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah, that is a solid go pick right there.
Yeah. It's not a 2-pick because he did not play through any letter. He just created 2 hooks that were really hard to find. Oh, wow. Adam missed Sage. So it was just one of those games I think Adam would want to get over at some point. He had the lead, he had a bit of tempo, and then Jackson came storming back when Adam missed the key bingo of Warriors, and there's now really going back from there.
And there's Julia Bogle weighing in her opinion on what happened in the game. Hello, Julia.
Yeah, is Julia Bogle one of the options for next round for who gets to play on the live stream?
Possibly.
so,
I
I
saw
will
he was
gladly
doing pretty
vote for
well in the tournament.
Seriously? Oh shit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the pairings, or if the whoever's going to be playing next round has been finalized, but if not, there is the
You seem nervous.
link in the
No, I wasn't
chat.
at all.
Really? Oh wow.
I was very
We are hearing from our on-field reporter that it is SMYLIE versus Jackson Smiley. So Jackson's now 14-1. It'll be pretty necessary for people to start clawing back and starting to chip a few games at Jackson if they want to have a chance of winning. If Jackson wins the next round too, 15-1 will be really hard to catch going into the final day.
Indeed. And Sid, coming into the previous round, was 10-4. We don't know if he won his last game or not, but if he did win, then he'll be at 11-4 with Jackson at 14-1. 3 games behind with 5 to go, which isn't impossible to catch up.
It is not impossible at all.
I guess after Q,
So we will come back in a bit, though. This was a really fun game. Thank you so much, and see you in probably 15 minutes.
Yes, I envision.